be starting with literature review, and I must commend the organizers, the Golden Lamp Initiative, for this laudable initiative. It's actually laudable. The fact that you have to put students together to teach them, honestly, it's laudable. Just because all of us are busy and all, but then the fact that we're able to garner knowledge. Knowledge is key, and there's nothing little. So I really appreciate the strength and the courage and the everything that's been put into it. Let me just say that. So we started out from the first week with academic writings, and I'm sure you were able to gain one or two things. And it was an introduction to research. Research basically is a very important part, that aspect of nursing that over the years has grown, and then we cannot, it's something that we can't afford to pretend as if we don't know it exists. So we need to improve ourselves daily on it. So I will be taking the literature review, and but permit me to say that at this level, literature review is broad. It's not something that we can exhaust in 45 minutes. But then it's like what you're being given is like a springboard. Some of you have finished research at the first level. Some of you are writing. Some of you are about to write. Some of you have just been assigned to supervisors. Whatever level you are, one thing is sure: you will gain something that will serve as a springboard for you to be able to move on to the next level. So information, like I said, and knowledge is actually key. Permit me to, before I start, to run through the requirement. Don't forget the research project that we write in nursing is in 5 chapters. And then there are different schools of thoughts when it comes to some things. But basically, there's some things that are fundamental. But it's important to also say that there are different schools of thought so that you don't shoot yourself in the leg. And then you may not be able to get everything in a day. You do also shoot yourself in the leg. So, but please relax and just pick whatever you can pick. So, like I said, chapter 1, there are 5 chapters that is expected of us to write in nursing. Chapter 1 includes, before chapter 1, you're required to write abstract. That's after you must have completed your work. That's abstract, like a summary of your work. Then you go to chapter 1. Chapter 1 involves introduction, which involves background of the study, where you're required to give like an idea of what your topic is all about. A background to the study. It's like a peep into what it looks like. You talk about what has been done in that area, the variables in your study, and all. I'm not going over that, but I'm just trying to run through. I don't just want to jump to literature review. Then we talk about the statement of problem. I remember 2 things that stood out for me when Dr. Anna Cruz was speaking last week was 1, she said research is research. It's like you're searching again, a research. So there's no way you would go and search again, searching again, a research. And then she said, another thing she mentioned was that where do we start from? Is it from our topic or from the problem? I'm sure we agreed later that it should be from the problem. There should be a problem at hand before you talk about you coin the topic, so to say. So before you come up with your topic, you look at what are the things that actually tickles your fancy. What are the things that you feel, this thing is something that I'm interested in, and it's easier to work from that angle. And then you can look at, okay, how do I coin the topic? The next is after that, objectives, which I'm sure she talked about. The objectives, and the objective will be broad and specific. Broad objective and specific objective. The broad objective is, of course, your topic, and the specific objectives are broken down, achievable goals related to your topic. Then we have research questions. Research questions are expected to align with your objectives. Then we have hypothesis. Then you have significance of study, the significance of the study to significant persons. What do your work stand to benefit, or who does it stand to benefit, or how does it benefit people? Then I think after that it should be significance. Then you should have scope. around, maybe before, after, depending on school. The scope narrows your work to where are you going to, do your work and all. Then there's operational definition of terms, whereby you operationalize the concept, the common words that you're using there, and then you narrow it down to your topic. Now, that is introductory aspect. That's chapter 1. Then the chapter 2 is now literature review, which is what I am taking. So, we go to chapter 2, which is literature review. Of course, chapter 3 is methodology and what have you, which will be taken later. But then that's how we got to where we are. So basically, I would be starting with literature review. Basically, what is literature review? Review of literature, but we'll take it as simple as possible. And we'll try to pick 1 or 2 things, hopefully, before the end of the class. So let's dive in. Next slide. So these are the outcomes, learning outcomes for this literature review. It's expected as the learner will be able to know the role of literature review. You should conduct comprehensive literature search, critically analyze and synthesize the sources of your literature review. You should be able to also identify gaps in your research, organize and structure literature review. And last but not the least, critically reflect on the implications of the literature. So we have that before. So we're going to take it, like I said, bit by bit. The next slide. What is literature? What is literature? Literature refers to a collection of published information or materials on a particular area of research or topics such as books, journals, articles of academic value, etc. So it's a collection of published information or materials. That's what we call literature. And it also includes the key sources that are related to the main debate, trends, and gaps in that research area. So the collection of published information or materials on or topics, and examples are journals, books, and all. So now, don't forget, literature review is a combination of 2 words. So, literature, I've been explained. What does it mean to review? Review means to critically and formally examine something again with the intent of making changes if necessary. So when we're looking at literature review, we're looking at reviewing or examining something over and over again, this time around literature. So reviewing literature means to identify what has been established. Please pay attention to that. You want to know what has been established in that area, what is accepted and discredited in the research area. By the time you go in depth, you study literature, you see what has been established. These ones are debatable. These have been established concerning this. This one has been accepted. And there's some that, no, these ones have been rejected. By the time we begin to find out information, you know all of that. So a review is not just summary of relevant sources. It involves evaluating individual sources and synthesizing these sources in order to gain a broader view. You want to go based on your topic, which is expected that you must have by now. You want to gain a broader view of the field of study. And so you should be an authority in that area. You should be able to speak more and speak better because you know more in that area. So in other words, when reviewing a literature, not only do you engage with other body of literature, you don't just engage you engage meaningfully, let me put it that way. So you need to compare notes, you contrast, synthesize, and you make argument for against in a way that indicates readiness to contribute to the literature. These are grammar. We understand better as we go on. So writing the literature review involves analyzing and synthesizing. Analyzing and synthesizing. I hope you can see me. Okay. Analyzing and synthesizing. Come to Nigeria. Analyzing and synthesizing previous research And I want you to pay attention to those two words, analyzing and synthesizing previous research. Next slide. So the two words, analyzing and synthesizing, may appear conflicting somehow, but they complement each other. When you talk about analyze and synthesizing, they complement each other. What is analyze? What does it mean to analyze literature? It means to systematically break down the relevant literature into constituent parts, breaking it down. What does analyze? Permit me to dwell on that. Analyze means you read the text closely, you make inferences or deductions from that, what you have read, and you determine the meaning. You want to explore and you want to know more. So you look at the context in which that particular article was written, or whatever you're reading, books, indexes. You want to look at the context in which it was written. You want to look at themes. How was it written? The headings, the subheadings, that's what we mean by themes. What are the headings? What are the ways it was written? The characters in quotes. Then the key terms and concepts in that word. So analyzing is more than summary. It's like, just like the word, you break it down to smaller components that you're able to better interpret the work. And so for you to analyze, you need to read actively and pay attention. So by the time you are reading literature, you're paying attention to details. And then you analyze the structure. How was it written? How was it segmented? How was it, structure is very key. We'll see that also as we go on. So that's analyzing. It's just explaining what I have there. It's systematically breaking down relevant literatures into constituent parts. While synthesis is just putting it together, making connection between the identified parts in the analysis. It's putting it together, combining multiple sources you get from here. After you have broken it down to smaller terms or smaller identifiable terms, then you now synthesize. Synthesizing is bringing together and from multiple sources to form a whole. So identify themes that you love to discuss, then read literature to adult them. But by the time you synthesize, you form a new structure. So by the time you're writing your own literature, it is your own in quotes, even though it's a combination of here and there. But then you're bringing together something that is whole and new and not as the other. So those are two things I want us to pay attention to before we go on. Please, are you following me? I need to know if you're following me.
Yes, ma'am.
I was talking about analyzing and synthesizing as complementary terms. So I think we'll get to know more about that by the time we are. So we'll link and position them against each other so as to identify reoccurring themes, trends, and areas of agreement. Now, the next slide, are you following? The next slide is on literature review. So basically, having talked about literature and we talked about review, what is literature review? Literature review is the second step of the research process. Who can remind us, what is the first step? You can type, you can talk, you can unmute yourself, or you can type. What is the first step?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, yeah. The first step is the problem identification. Before you talk about literature review,
identify the problem.
Yes, you identify the problem. In the research process, there are processes of research. The first one is you want to identify the problem. You want to identify the problem. So a literature review is a search and evaluation of available literature in your given subject or chosen a topic area. Don't forget there's a problem. Don't forget there is a topic you're working with now before we talk about this. So there's an idea, or rather something around it. There's an idea of what you want to talk about. So it's document the state of heart with respect to subject or topic one is writing about. It is very important to the study. So it's a comprehensive review. So I said it's the second step. You can see it's second step of the research process, and is a search and evaluation of available literature in that given subject or chosen topic area. So it involves identifying, evaluating, and synthesizing relevant literatures within a particular field of research. Now, by the time you're trying to find out information, you see that it highlights, this is an important point, what has been done. And it's closer to what I explained earlier. What has been done, what is generally accepted, what is imagined, and what is the current state of thinking on that topic. Let's look at exclusive breastfeeding, for instance. You will say that it's an area that has been overflowed. Maybe you pick a topic on exclusive breastfeeding, a topic on quality of life of individuals living with cancer, quality of life of hypertensive patients, quality of life of this category of people, and what have you. But you want to know what has been done. A lot has been done in these areas. What is accepted? What is the emerging trend in wound dressing, for instance? What's the emerging trend? What are the current state of thinking on that topic? By the time you start reading, all of these questions will be answered. Please stay there. When do we review? You start from the other side. You review when you begin thinking about your topic. So literature review does not start when you have said, okay, now we have gotten the problem, we have gotten the topic, now we can start reviewing literature. No, literature review is an ongoing thing. When you begin thinking about your topic, you still go on, you begin to search for information. And before you begin to write your proposals are chapters 1 to 3, you still search. Continuously, as the study progresses, you search. So the search is ongoing. You continue to search. So you review. When you begin thinking, so you should start from my rights, on that. Before you begin to write your proposal, continuously as the study progresses. All right, before the next slide, there are sources of literature and or literature types. And there are 3 basic primary sources of literature. Primary source, secondary source, tertiary source. That one is easy for us to identify with, like primary school, secondary school, tertiary. So what I've just talked about, basically, I've just given an idea of what literature means, what review means, and we put them together to literature review. Then we talked about when to review. Now we are on literature types. The primary source. That means the sources that you get your information from. There is the primary source, the secondary source, and the tertiary source. So for the primary source now, those are original sources, the fundamental, just like the name implies, primary. Publications that present original research in its original form. These ones has not been repackaged, no repackaging, interpreted or condensed in any way by other writers. They are primary sources. So they present new theories, new ideas, new thinking, new results. Do you get it? Because it is primary. And they are often peer-reviewed. So example is conference papers, technical reports, diaries, theses, dissertations, journal articles, patents, and all of that. Those are examples of primary sources of literature. Now the secondary source is there are publications about the primary source, and they are considered secondary. So they generalize, they analyze, they interpret, and evaluate, and they add value to the original information, but that's not the original. It's like rebranding. So example, they can be printed in peer-reviewed publications too. You have review articles, indexes, bibliographies. Those are secondary sources of information that you garner from. The tertiary compile or digest information from both primary and secondary. I hope it is clear. So we know that primary is fundamental. Secondary rebrand primary. Why? Tertiary compile or digest information from both primary and secondary sources that become widely accepted. So that's why you have textbooks. So when you see textbooks are compilation of both primary and secondary sources. So they provide an overview, a broad one, on the topic or data, already proven facts and definitions. So encyclopedias, guides, and books, they are all combination of tertiary sources. I hope that's clear. So literature types, the sources are from primary, secondary, and tertiary. So I've been the one talking. So can we talk now? What are the roles? What do you think? With this background, with this literature I've talked about, what are the roles of literature review in research? What's the purpose of literature review? We said it's important, yes. It's an integral part of research, yes. But can we specify what are the roles of literature review in research? You can unmute yourself or type.
Okay, it helps us to identify problems in.
It helps us to identify problems. What form of problem? Peter,
Okay,
are
aside
you
identifying the problems in other people's research, they give us a guide as to how to go about our own research as well. So it's like an insight into the future for our research.
Beautiful. Thank you, Akoshile, Favor. Thank you. That's beautiful. So any other gives us insight into other people's, the lapses there. You're able to see. It's easy to see when you are looking from afar. Then it helps you in your own research. All right. Any other responses? What are the roles of literature review in research? It helps to know this. All right.
We have some
I'm listening.
we have some messages in the inbox.
All right. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to read. I saw somebody to identify and understand recent trends. Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Somebody said it helps to know the scope of existing knowledge regarding the problem.
To be researched. I love that because it helps you to know the magnitude of the problem. That's good. Help us to know the ideal situation concerning what we want to do. Thank you. Establishing context in one's research. These are beautiful ones. It gives information from other researches on that topic. Good. It helps to know what has already been done in a particular field and identify possible. I love that too. Because you don't want to recycle the wheels. If you say this is what the knowledge of people in a particular mothers on exclusive breastfeeding is, they have good knowledge, is 96%. What are you doing? You get it? So then it's all right, sorry. Gap identification, gaps, good. To get enough background knowledge on the topic being researched, help us to know what has already been done, all right? Context, observer. Help us to know ideal situation, then it can help to project possible future trends in that particular area. Beautiful. By the time you start reading, you'll be able to project and see ahead the things that, the likelihood, because there may be a trend. Every 10 years, every 5 years, this is what happens. So you can project and say by so time, this is likely to happen. To know the research what has been conducted on a particular topic, and it gives clarity. Beautiful. Will I show my slide now? You have more than enough. It gives clarity and focus to the research problem. Honestly, it does. It helps to review areas where further research is needed, also guiding the research questions. Don't forget, we need to answer the research questions. We have research, like I was trying to explain when I was giving a background of the chapter 1 introduction. It gives, we have the research objective, that's the specific, and you have research questions. So you want to be able to answer these objectives, you want to answer your research questions. By the time you are surfing the net, by the time you are getting information, both from primary, secondary, tertiary, you get information that are enough for you to be able to form your own structure. So it helps it gives detailed information about topics to identify limitations. Beautiful. And develop ideas on how to tackle them. Thank you for this beautiful responses. Those are the rules. Let's look at what I have here. So I have them. So let's go to the next slide. To discover evidence, you should have to zoom that. Evidence for use in practice. You want to discover evidence. Now we are talking about evidence-based studies. There should be something to show for it. So we want to discover evidence for use in practice by the time you're reviewing literature. You want something to substantiate, to back up, and to be able to say, oh, so when you are talking with your supervisor, when you are defending your work, when you are talking, you are not talking without evidence. Do you get it? Evidence is something backing what you have, and evidence is found in literature. The next is provide background to your work by summarizing previously published work. I talked about background earlier. When we want to talk about background gives an idea. That means you have something to give. You're talking about mother-to-child, prevent PMTCT, prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV. You are giving information. You are giving an overview, then you are narrowing it down. It shows that you have gotten information. So you provide a background to your topic through literature review. You also want to evaluate and determine if clinical practice is in line with current research. We used to say there's a gap between research and practice. I was teaching somewhere last week, and one of the students said, "Ma, but what you are teaching us is different from what operates on the world." I said, yes, I agree. There is a gap. That's one of the things research does. By the time you see what is in literature is different from what goes on. What's in literature, what's documented is different from what we see. I'm sure some of the students can identify. But then research have a way of blocking or bridging. And then so we bridge the gap between practice and theory. Between theory and practice. Do you understand? With current research evidence. A lot of things have been changed in the course of, in the hospital as a result of, or clinical practice, let me not say in the hospital, as a result of what they found out through research. So it helps us to evaluate and determine if clinical practice is in line or if there are wide gaps or it's just a small gap. It helps us to also address a research problem and help answer a research problem. One of us said that helps to justify your research. Beautiful. Now, you must be able to justify that research. Why are you doing it? Is there a reason for it? If everyone has done it, why don't you look for gaps? Why don't you look for things that you see have not been done or has not been conducted in among a particular group of people? Why are we overflogging a particular area? So you must justify. And one of the reasons you can justify, one of the ways you can justify is through literature review. By the time you review literature, your supervisors, by the time you are doing your proposal, if you do that in your school, we do it in your school. By the time they ask you, this person is asking you 1, 2, 3 questions. By the time you answer, it shows that you know what you're doing because you have information, you have literature at your beck and call. You have it in your hands. It evaluates previous research and identifies gaps. We've said that. Then clarifies areas of controversies and agreements between experts. By the time you start searching, you see controversies, you see controversial issues. Now you now wonder, which one should I settle for? Is it this or that? So what it does is to clarify controversial topics, issues, and also the areas where they have agreed. And then you can blend. Don't forget, by the time we are discussing findings, discussion of findings in chapter 4, 5. I said 4 and 5 because some school of thought discuss findings in chapter 4. Some schools rather, and in chapter 5. You are comparing. Discussion of findings is basically describing what you found out in your study. But according to what Oluwaseyi did in 2020, it's in contrast. It's in deviance. It's not in agreement. You use different words. You understand? So you can also clarify areas of controversy and agreement between experts in your area. Next slide. All right. No, now this is the gap. The gap. Yes. We know that literature review helps to break the gap. Can someone explain this? Can someone explain the gap in literature? Can you explain it better? Even though you see the person in red, the red in white, those individuals, there's a gap in between. Please, can you explain this picture? I'm waiting. Who wants to explain? Who wants to explain this gap vis-a-vis literature review? Okay, maybe I should read the.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening, yes.
So for me, I feel like is like an area that hasn't been discovered or explored yet. Like an area where has to be researched on more, like it hasn't been discovered, just for my own understanding, ma.
All right, thank you. So coming. Thank you for that. Any other? Benedicta said it depicts how far the previous research has gone and what the ongoing one is doing. All right. All right. Your literature, your work, whatever you do should be able to fill a gap. You see that there's a gap there. Now, if that thing is continuous and there is no gap, so what are you doing? So there is always a gap. So you ask yourself, for the researches that you have done, for the ones you're doing, which gap are you filling? What are you contributing to the existing body of knowledge? We're not overflogging or overburdening the existing body of knowledge with information that everybody has said. You should come up with something new, something unique that will fill up that space, that gap. That means there's a space for you. There's just like they say, there's a space for you at the top. But in literature, in research, in the body of knowledge, the expanded body of knowledge, there is a space for you to fill up So your work should be able to, so don't just do research as if, let's just do it, every other person is doing it. No, it must answer a question. It must fill up a gap. Thank you. Next slide. So we need to run. This is, okay. So locating the existing literature on topic of interest, I'll just run through this. You need to decide on a topic of interest in a specific field of study. We have said this. List the keywords and or phrases from the search. Determine relevant databases to search from. Search and document relevant findings from each of the databases. Keep track of your search. Save pertinent literature and materials in Reference Manager for easy recall and reference. I'm sure you're familiar with this, but we get better understanding by the time we continue. The next slide. All right. Just like the gap, it's also important for us to know that literature review is an overarching structure using funnel approach. What do we mean? When writing, by the time you are doing literature review, you move from broad and general to detailed and specific areas. That's why when you see some literature, research work, somebody is talking about family planning. Don't mind me. Talking about a particular thing, it just start straight. No, you move from broad, you narrow it down to your topic. You see the way it tapers. You move from broad and general to the detailed and specific areas of your study. So you're talking about maybe mother-to-child transmission of HIV, for instance. It's subsumed under HIV. HIV is a viral disease. Then maternal HIV causes, it's also a pointer to maternal mortality. You can start from HOP. Then you narrow it down to HIV before you get to prevention. Prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV is just one out of different concepts under HIV. So you don't just start directly from EMTCT. But you start. So you move from broad and general to detailed and specific, and that's going to even help in your search. You start from the broader aspect of your topic and narrow your focus to specific research questions and the specific problems you are addressing. And that's the way you write. By the time you write, you don't just start writing from bottom to top. You start from top. So the next one now is searching the literature. This is also another important part, searching the literature. Next slide, please. All right, thank you. Before writing the literature review, you must perform an organized literature search to identify sources that are relevant to your topic of interest. You want to identify sources that are relevant to your topic of interest. So you must learn. It's a detailed one. Literature review is not just something you sit somewhere and just say, let me see how it goes. You must be intentional. You must be ready to work because it is hard work. So because of the magnitude of available literature, you start by setting things like inclusion criteria. For example, maybe your supervisor or your supervisor has specified that only peer-reviewed scholarly sources are accepted. In your schools, they have specified that this is how you go about it. These are the sources that we allow. These are the things you must do. You have to follow. So your inclusion criteria is very germane there. Other inclusion criteria may be year of publication. Yes, good. Some use 5 years for journals, 10 years for books and all. But basically, the number of years must also be put into consideration. So a keyword can also be a means of searching. A keyword is a term or short phrase that is characteristic of a specific type or topic. A keyword is, what are the keywords in your topic? Just pick one. So the searching the literature is, how do we search literature? So we want to search, we perform an organized search to identify sources that are relevant to our topic. And because you can't pick all the topics available, you start by delineating. And one of the ways you delineate is that, what are the things you remove? Okay, that's one of the things I omitted in chapter 1, inclusion and exclusion criteria. What are the things you are putting in? What are the things that makes your participants to be part of the study? Or what are the things that makes them to be out? So inclusion criteria here may be year of publication, like I said, or a key term, a keyword that is characteristic of a specific type. So what are the strategies we use in search? The strategies are keywords, like we said in the later slide. Keywords. When a keyword is typed into the search box of an online search engine, such as Medline, Sinal, Google Scholar, it comes out. Keyword can be keywords. There are keywords in your topic that you will put there. It could be, like I said, prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV. It could be female genital mutilation. It could be quality of life, hypertensive patients. Those are keywords. You type them in an online search engine. Let me dwell a little bit on this. Don't forget that it's not general browsing. You just go to your browser and just type something. No, if you want to get information that are genuine, in quotes, then you need to use some of these search engines. So by the time you get there, you can extrapolate in the sense that you can reduce the number of information you have. Okay, let's take 5 years, 10 years, for instance. This is 2024. From 2014 to 2024, 2019 to 2024, you have removed the years. So by the time it's giving you information based on the 5 years. You see it. If you look at Google Scholar, for instance, by the time you type the Google Scholar on your search and your browser, you see Google Scholar, then you type on Google Scholar, then you can input inside Google Scholar, then your topic. By the time it's asking you questions, you see by the side, yes, you see some information by the side, you click. It's so year, so year. It will remove extra information that you do not need. Then you can also search through subject terms. These are more formal than keywords. Most of the time, you find subjects that are more, they are able to focus on the literature review. Then you can use authors. Oluwaseyi OT. Because my major is maternal and child health nursing. Most likely my research area is likely going to focus on that area. So, or you may say, oh, I think she did whatever in a particular area. It's in a particular area. And then you want to find out more information in that particular area. You know that she would have published. So you can search through using the authors. You know that the author is doing something around that area. So you can find additional articles written by the same person by including the name of the author. So you just type Oluwaseyi Omobola in your browser or whatever. You find what I have done. Complex searches. Complex searches combine two or more concepts or synonyms in one search. We are looking at strategies for search. We use keywords, subject terms, authors, complex searches. There are several ways to arrange your terms in a data phrases. The three most common ways, I'll be talking about two, are the Boolean operators. What do we mean by Boolean operators? Boolean operators are words used to combine. Please, I don't want us to be confused. I talked about literature types, which are primary, secondary, tertiary, and the roles of literature review and research, which you beautifully contributed to. Then we talked about gaps. Then how to locate existing literature on topic of interest. Then the fact that literature review it should be approached from an angle of overarching structure, which is a funnel approach. Then how to search the literature. Then we now look at search strategies using keywords, subject terms, authors, complex searches. So that's where we found ourselves in operators now. And the number one is Boolean operators. Boolean operators are words used to combine search terms and concepts in a database to narrow or broaden the search results. They are words you use it to combine other words. And the common ones are hand in capital, OR, or, and NOT, north. So in most search engines, the words must be capitalized for them to function in this way. So you use and when you want to search for presence of two or more terms in the same citation. I'll give an example in the next slide. So or is useful. So you use and when you want to combine two things. You use or when it is either this or this to expand the scope of your search. And when you want to search for presence of either of two terms in this, you use not when you want to search for one idea but not the other. So that one is less frequently used. So that's for Boolean operators. The locational operators, that one talks about the area you want. Maybe you are searching and you want to narrow it down to a particular area, a particular field. It could be even in a particular city. So that's just what that one, it gives additional information when you're searching. So the next slide. So look at the example of Boolean operators. Utilization and family planning. Utilization and family planning. You're looking at utilization, but you are trying to look at a previous article, previous work that combine utilization and also combines family planning. That's the an example. Then for all, you are using a practice or use. Whichever work that's been done that use practice, or maybe they use. You see that it will bring forth. So that's expanding the scope of your search. The next one is you can say mothers, not women. You are trying to narrow it down and say, okay, don't give me what I don't want. You're narrowing down. So that's that. So now we're looking at steps in the literature review process. Please, so far, are we clear? Hello, are we clear?
Yes,
So far?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So, all right, sorry. What are the steps in the literature review process? You define your research question. Don't forget, when we're saying, when do we review? You see that back and forth. You may need to do some exploratory search of literature to get a sense of your scope. Like one of you said, to get the scope, to determine whether you need to narrow or broaden your focus. Now, when you know the scope, the magnitude of the problem or the magnitude of what has been done, it will help you, oh, I think I need to come in a closer, smaller point, or I need to expand my own scope. It also helps you to identify databases that provide the most relevant sources and identify relevant terms to your search strategies. By the time you study more, you say, okay, I need to find out to add more vocabularies to what you are searching for, maybe as a subject or as a keyword. Then you finalize your research question. Those are steps in the literature review process. Then you need, number 2, is you want to determine inclusion and exclusion criteria. I've said that before. What are the dates that you're going to be using? Are you going to be using journals within 5 years? So it has to be between 2019 to 2024. Geographies, that's talking about locational operators, areas that you want studies that are done in developed countries, studies that are done that are not, you don't want, or studies that are done in Nigeria. Or maybe you are in Osun State, for instance. Has this study been done in Osun State? You want to find out, so you could put those delineators to find out if they had been done or not. Methods and conflicting point of view, all of that. So your inclusion criteria is very germane. Your exclusion criteria is also key when you are doing your literature review process. So we are looking at steps in literature review process. The first is you define the research question. 2, you determine inclusion and exclusion criteria. You choose databases, that's number 3, and conduct the search. You conduct search in the published area via identified databases. Excuse me. You check to see if this topic has been covered in other disciplines. By the time you are searching, we are on number 3, which is choosing databases and conducting the research. I said conduct searches in published literature via identified databases. Check to see if this topic has been covered in other disciplines. So by the time you're surfing the net, you're looking at other databases, you are conducting your search. Has it been done here? Where has it been done? Where has it been done? And is it in your discipline? One of the things I personally discover is that when you go online, you see other disciplines doing nursing related. I don't know if you noticed, doing nursing related topics. Even in other schools, you see them and you wonder, why are they doing nursing related courses? Everybody is going medical. Let me not use nursing. Let me use medical. So you'll be surprised that it has been done. You see somebody else doing psychology, doing counseling. But you realize they are doing medical courses. other people, other fields, other areas. That's just by the way. Then you examine the citation of on-point articles for keywords, authors, and previous searches. By the time you also check through keywords, through authors, you find other people, you find information. All of these things that I've been saying are helping you to delineate and to be able to say, oh, this will help me further in my search. By the time you get to Oluwaseun, you may find out another person. Then you go to another person. By the time you use one keyword, by the time you search, you get another thing that will help you. That's how you go in research. So it's not a one-time thing. Oh, I want to search. And then you're good to go and say, oh, I'm okay. But by the time you search, you move from here to here. You see another reason or another one that is even more appropriate than the one you have looked at. And you see that that's how you get information. So you get robust information. Then you review your results. Save your results in citation management tool. There's Mendeley. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Mendeley, EndNote, or Zotero. I'm more familiar with Mendeley. By the time you are getting your work, if you have Mendeley on your phone, if you know much about it, it will just automatically save those things you have, gotten while surfing the net, and then it will help referencing. It's going to help your referencing, you in your referencing, because it will be keeping it. So by the time you are done with your work, you won't have issues with referencing. So you save your results. As a matter of fact, whatever you need, whatever information you are getting, you are collecting them, you are noting them, and you are forming your own structure. Don't forget, we are talking about analyzing and synthesizing at the beginning of this lecture. By the time you break them down, what are the things that you need? What are the components of this? You will know the ones that are applicable to you and the ones you should remove. Then you put them together to form your own. But then you can have a skeleton. What do I mean by skeleton? How do I want to write my literature reviews? I want to follow a particular format. This is the way I want to write it. Then you fill it up. The heading. What are the themes? I'm sure we get to a place where we talk about themes. What are the themes we're going to be using? Themes are like broad headings. And then this one comes under it. This one comes under it. Then you will know where to put what. Let me say here before we continue that you know that in what we do in most of our universities in this area is we write our literature review using our objective. We write our literature review, or rather, how do you write your literature review? Maybe before I go on. Literature review, so that I'll have an idea of what operates amongst our students. Literature review. What format do you use in writing literature review? Please, I want answers to that. That's in your chapter 2.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening, there.
Yes, ma. Thank you for the presentation, ma. For literature review, we have like 3 cogent parts in writing it. Yes, ma. So first one is the conceptual review. So in the conceptual review, that is where we have the background and overview of what a person wants to make a research on. For example, making use of maybe I want to discuss about cancer, maybe like ovarian cancer as a research topic. So from that ovarian cancer, I'm going to discuss it like in the overview and discuss it in line with my objective too. If I'm dealing with knowledge, attitude, and perception of ovarian cancer screening, like that. So I'm going to discuss it, like explain the overview, then discuss the what people have done on that particular field of research based on the knowledge, perception, and the attitude of the population study that I want to focus on. Then I will move to the empirical review. So the empirical review will give me the overview of the percentage and the statistics that has been gotten from the previous done work on what I'm working on. So, and lastly will be the theoretical framework, so which is the theoretical review. So the theoretical framework deals with the theoretical framework, the theory that I use to back up what I'm researching on. Maybe it's a belief model, or I'm working on a particular study that deals with behavioral and social theory. So I'm going to make a study, a theory that's going to guide as a framework that deals with the theory that I want to work on that really match with my work. So we have, that's all about it, ma. So we have the conceptual review, the empirical review, and the theoretical review.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that comprehensive explanation. And I hope that's the way using research questions and objective. Thank you. Like, okay, that means we're in line. So by the time we are writing our literature review, we are writing it based on 3. The conceptual review, like he rightly said. It's theoretical. Some school of thought prefer, when you look at the order in which Nursing Council puts it, it's conceptual, theoretical, and empirical. Or you can decide to put empirical before theoretical. Conceptual review basically means you're reviewing the concepts of your study. If you're talking about cancer, like you said, the concept is ovarian cancer. You're talking about FGM, which is female genital mutilation. The concept is female genital mutilation. By the time you are surfing the net, you are looking out for female genital mutilation. Now, if there are other things that now link to your female genital mutilation, thank you, to your female genital mutilation, now you can now add in your search process. Excuse me. So by the time you search, you will get, actually you will know by the time you are writing, these ones are going under conceptual review. Now, of course, I used to say something to my students that conceptual review can be written more in quotes, like a seminar paper. You know why? It's something, you give us an idea of that concept. You talk more about that concept. So somebody once told me, if somebody picks up your work, you should be able to get an idea. So maybe somebody that's not a medical person or medically inclined and picks your work, because the person should be able to have an understanding of the concept you talk about before you even talk about the research aspect. So that's why then you can now expand more on the concept. That's where conceptual review comes in. So you write extensively on the concept under study. Quality of life. What is quality of life? Are there things that are attached to it? You put that together. Then you now go to theoretical or empirical. Somebody wrote empirical before theoretical. That's what I'm used to. But what I've seen in recent times is the theoretical coming before empirical. Now, what are theoretical? Just like he rightly explained, you also look out for theories and you can search and look. Or maybe you are looking at a work I did 5 years ago. Which theory did I use to support the work? You look at the work and you say, okay, what theory did she use? I was talking recently, the course of last week now on H.E. Peblau. That's interpersonal relationship. You know, okay, should I use Peblau? Should I use the common one that you guys use that I just mentioned? Should I use this? But at the time you look at the components of the theory, and you look at the components or the themes and sub-themes of your own work, then you see, so do they tally? So you can also Google and say theories applicable to this particular topic. That's like theories that are applicable. You'll be surprised. Google will help you. Theories, applicable theories. And then you can now extrapolate. You can say, okay, this one appears better. That's theoretical review. Then you now review the theory as a whole, and you narrow it down to your work. Then the empirical one, which is the one that is actually very key. The empirical review is the review of literatures in line with what you want to do. And now the empirical review is now the one you use either, like somebody answered now, research questions or your objectives. So if you are writing on empirical review, if your objectives are 3, for instance, your empirical review should have 3 subheadings. Maybe the first one is knowledge, attitude, and practice. These are common themes among students. Knowledge, attitude, and practice. Your first empirical review should be on knowledge of mothers on exclusive breastfeeding, for instance. Knowledge of mothers on exclusive breastfeeding. Now, by the time you now Google knowledge plus, or tell you knowledge and, using your Boolean operators, knowledge and exclusive breastfeeding. You know, you just dance around it. You use authors, you use all of the other key areas. You see that you get information on that one objective alone. So that's why you see that you expand your scope of search. The next one is maybe knowledge, attitude of mothers. Do you get it? Then you get, the second will be attitude of mothers. The third one, attitude, practice of mothers. So those are the ways of making sure that you expand the scope of your search. And I'm happy I remember that. So this is an integral part of study. So you review your results. Make sure you found the seminar pieces and the work is considered for that. Check with your professor to make sure that your search has been comprehensive. Then you analyze the information. Are there gaps in the literature that you have searched? Where are significant research taking place and who has done it? Is there consensus or a debate on this topic? Is it a controversial topic? Is it an ethical topic? There's some topics that have ethical. They tell you, no, you can't do it. That's why your supervisor is also important too. You can't say, no, I have information now. You can't. I must say that you can't rubbish your supervisor. You need to be on the same page, because there are some topics that you take that because of ethics. You want to work with minors, people under 18 years. You want to talk about sensitive topics that has to do with sex, gender, and what have you. You can't just go ahead and say, no, I'm interested, it's my passion. No. You consider ethics before going ahead. Which methodological approaches works best? Then number 5 is synthesize information. We talked about that. Evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of sources and evaluate for bias, methodology, and thoroughness. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this work? We call it critiquing. You remember, I know some of you must have done it. You critique previous researches and previous works. By the time you go for advanced studies, you have to critique some work. You look at the strength. You look at the weaknesses of the topic. So those are the things you major on. You major on the strength and you tone down on the weaknesses. Then group your results into an organizational structure that will support why your research needs to be done. We'll see that in a bit. You now do what we call grouping. Don't forget I said you may have a skeleton, whereby this is the way I want to write it. For my theoretical, empirical, conceptual review, this is how I want to write it. These are the subheadings. These are the themes I want to work with. And then you begin to feel. By the time you are looking at one literature, you say, oh, this aspect, it will be better for me in background. This information will be better for me under conceptual review, because you may need to give us epidemiological review. And then you say this information will be key. So you group your results and then you develop your conclusions. The next slide, I hope you're following. I'm not saying it. Then write the literature review. Pick an organizational structure. I've said that. The themes, the concept, the methodologies. For example, background, the current practices, where and how the study will fit in. Organize your citations and focus on your research question and pertinent studies. Then compile your bibliography. I'm sure you know bibliography, that's like your references. So still talking about this, literature review. You structure your literature review. How do you structure is what I've been explaining. Search for recent literatures as it gives you good idea and helps in organizing your work. That is structuring it. You're structuring it in such a way that you're getting information and you are putting it in. Then you now develop the content. Have the frame. And what that before not frame? You know the frame of a house, of a window. You know the frame is there. But by the time you do it, you begin to put windows, you begin to put some things. So that's what I was trying to say. But you first of all have the frame, then you put the content. So by the time you keep studying, you have content to put in each of the frame or structure that you have created. So you specify the headings, like I said. How many subheadings do you want to have? If you're in chapter 2, for instance, that would be 2.0. Your conceptual framework will be 2.1. Anything under conceptual framework will be 2.11, 2.12. You want to have 3 major headings, 2.11, 2.12. That's the way to write. By the time you get to theoretical or empirical, depending on what your school uses, that will be 2.2, 2.21, 2.22. By the time you get to the next one, it may be empirical or theoretical, 2.3. Then if you're having 3 objectives, 3 research questions, 2.31, 2.32, 2.33. So decide where and how to discuss theories and concepts. So as we go through to the end of the lecture, there's what we call literature matrix. Literature matrix is a chart that allows a researcher to sort and categorize different arguments presented on an issue. It's just a summary of what we have been saying. It's a tool that helps researchers organize and analyze information from various sources related to their search. So it helps you to help organize thoughts on an article. It's a tool used by researchers to analyze and synthesize information from various sources. Allows for sorting and categorizing. I hope we are there, yes, of different arguments. Literature matrix, basically, I remember when students come to me with their topics with an idea of what they want to do. Now, after we have agreed, we are required, even though this is more at an higher level, but then we can do it. It will help you if you can do it. What literature matrix does is you look out for, after surfing the net, after browsing, after getting information, you now categorize them. You can get 50 literatures. And then you see it in the next, and I put an idea in the next slide, not yet. So you put it and you write out the content. And that helps you in your writing. It's just a summary of like what you want, what you have gotten, and then it will help you by the time you're writing. If you can browse and surf the net and, carefully, diligently look out for literatures, and you get, depending on your level, 20, 30, 40, 50 literatures, and you put them in a literature matrix, you're almost good to go by the time you are writing. So this is an example of a literature matrix. This is not all encompassing. Next slide. This is not, next slide. Thank you. So there's another one that I found, but I found that this one is straightforward. That's why I used this. Now you see this one now. The overall topic is my topic is respectful maternity care. So this was a literature publication that was done in Calabar. Respectful maternity care and midwives caring behavior during childbirth in 2 hospitals in Calabar, Nigeria. It was done by John and Duke and then SEO No More in 2020. When you look at this thing, this is my topic. These are the authors. This was the year of publication. 3 things. At a go, if I want to write, there's what we call intense referencing. When you're writing too, you must be able to cite the authors. I didn't mention that. Oluwaseyi 2020 opined that this. That is what we call intense referencing. In the body of your work, you're referencing me. You're putting my name. You're putting the name of the author. So that's by the way. So this is the topic. These are the topic, the name, and the author. Should be 3 in 1. The next one is, don't forget, I must have done a lot of work before I came up with all of this. And I say, hi, the author, the researcher. Now, the methodology. When you are looking, these are the things you're looking out for when you are surfing the net or when you're researching. The methodology is the descriptive study. Collected data from 83 purposively selected, purposive sampling was used. Selected postnatal women, target population, who had spontaneous vaginal delivery, and 51 midwives, target population, postnatal women and midwives. So at a glance, that means you will sit down and extract all this information and you put them in a table form or tabular form. Then what is the aim or objective of the study? Some people will have objectives, want you to even write it out. It will determine client experience of respectful maternity care and midwives caring behavior in 2 hospitals in Calabar. Now, you see, determine client experience. That is the objective. So it's a qualitative study, though this particular one is not quantity, it's a qualitative study. So it determines client experience because you can't measure experience with questionnaire of respectful maternity care and midwives caring behavior in 2 hospitals in Calabar. What were the results? What did they find out? There's need to or a recommendation, or let me look at findings. Maybe findings should come here. As reviewed in the study, we found out a mixture of respectful and disrespectful care rendered by midwives to the women. There's a deficit in maternity care. It is not right-based. Women are not obtaining optimal care. In response, women may resort to unskilled birth attendants who may be friendlier, but with consequences of morbidities and mortality. I'm reading under findings now. Both respectful and disrespectful behaviors exist during maternity care as reported by both clients and midwives. Therefore, there's need to scale or recommendation. There's need to scale up maternity care in contemporary health facilities. Appropriate care must be respectful. Midwives need to transform caregiving. This will make a difference by promoting. This is an idea of literature matrix. You are putting the literatures together. Don't forget we took it from what literature is, from what review is. Then we went on to talk about the gaps and all, and how to browse. But when you have gotten this information, you now put them together. And then it's easier. A structure, I was talking about a structure. This is one of the structures that can help you in writing. This is provision of respectful maternity care. That's the next slide. Next one. I don't know if you're there. Slide. Provision of respectful maternity care by midwives during childbirth in health facilities in Lagos State, Nigeria. A qualitative exploratory inquiry. I was looking for it. A quantitative study though. That's by Wale Olaige and Winnie. And it was in 2022. The study adopted an exploratory descriptive research design. That's methodology. So, and data collection. That's another thing. It's after the other one. Data collection is through semi-structured interview. And it was also purposive sampling. 20 midwives from 2 health facilities. Now, by the time you are sitting down, you are getting all this information. By the time you are writing, it's easier to write because you have this information together. So the findings reveal poor provision of majority of categories of RMC by midwives. However, they found out that confidentiality, pain management, this and this were made available. Are you following? But you need to sit down with it and then get information. Conclusively, in literature review, you assess the relevance and significance of past works to your topics and decide on whether or not to include them. So you will find a lot of junks online. You will find things that, should I use junks? If you use appropriate search engine, not junks, but they may not be applicable to your work. A and B, you are different. You may be friends, but you are not doing the same topic. You can use the same process, but information you need may not be applicable. So you can decide on whether or not to include them. They need to be related to your research topic. So literature review is about relevance and significance. You should improve your understanding of your current body of knowledge. And you should be able to contribute, such as when I put that gap, you should be able to contribute to your body of knowledge, such that, so gone are the days where we do research and we put them on shelves, or we just put them somewhere. You just do research for doing sake. You should not come for this training for 8 weeks and do a research and not publish. Let me just not say that. So you must be ready to publish, because if you have done it well, you will be confident enough to publish it, to the outside world. So literature review is an iterative process, meaning you need to continue. It's not something that I say, thank God, I have finished. I'm done with my literature review. I can now write. No. In the course of writing, you will see a need to go back online to clarify, to check, to find out. So you keep going back and forth to literature. Do you understand? So it's not a one-time thing. A good literature review should show you that you are aware of the current state of knowledge in your area. You will know what is the current state and then what needs to be improved. The key theories and concepts ensure they are well explained. You also highlight limitations. As one of you said, there are past studies and the research gaps that you have filled in the body of knowledge. What gaps do you want to fill, I ask you? Or you are reinventing the wheel? As it was in the beginning, is now and ever shall be, word without end. You should do something new. Your research work should also contribute to the existing body of knowledge. So these are some of the references we have used. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. So basically, we've been able to give an idea. It's not all exhaustive, but like I said earlier, something to give us an idea. And then like a springboard, you can seek for more information and you can actually get to know more. Thank you very much for your audience and thank you for your active participation.
Thank you very much, Ma. I'm sure they've learned a lot. So question time. Question time. If you have any question, this is the time to ask your question.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ma.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. So I have a little concern and question. So I'm not very sure I'm going to get clarification here. So I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing, but sometimes under empirical review. So someone taught me that you can use the abstract of some related articles, like 2 to 3. That's under each of the. That's taking all your objectives into consideration, having like 2 to 3 abstract under it. So you don't need to paraphrase, rather you remove the dates and other things and just put it together. How true and authentic is that?
Thank you for that. Thank you for your sincerity. Abstracts are actually meant to guide. I forgot to mention the fact that when you see some literatures, just reading their abstract will tell you, is this one applicable to me or should I go for another? So abstracts are also very good. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. When you read the abstracts, there are some that you say, reading the abstracts, this is not for me. So you can extrapolate. So having said that, so now your question, abstracts are just summary. It is, permit me to use the word lazy man's job. You want to use abstract to write under your empirical review. You need to stand. By the time you're doing your empirical review, like I said, if you have 20, 30 articles, You are like this. See my shoulder. You are confident. And by the time you are writing back and forth, don't forget, it is what you write in your literature review that you will use to discuss in your chapter 4 or 5, whatever you use in your school. So it's a comparison. By the time you write, by the time you now do your own findings, maybe you go to the field, this is what you found out. Mothers are knowledgeable about this thing they are talking about. Oluwaseyi is saying they are not knowledgeable. You will now say according to Oluwaseyi, but it's in contrast to what you have said. You see, so the more the literature you have, the merrier your discussion. So you need more than abstract. You don't just need to do it for 1, 2, 3 abstract. That's a lazy man job, but we can do much more. And we can actually do much more. Thank you. Do you have other questions in the chat box? Maybe I can.
Okay, good evening, ma.
All right, good evening.
Yes, ma. My question is on the theoretical framework for the research. That's the theoretical review.
Okay.
So that we don't go too much in giving basic theories about probably the condition we are trying to assess or review. Is there any point at which maybe there's a maximum level where we are to stop for our theoretical review? Instead, probably I'm discussing on prostate cancer. Yes, that's what my topic is on now. At what point should I say, okay, my theoretical review is okay at this point, instead of opening a new chapter of medical surgical nursing in my research work?
But are you sure you are talking about theoretical review or conceptual?
Conceptual review, ma, sorry.
I know you, because the way your question is on conceptual. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes, ma.
That's a good question. How do I know if I've written enough? I'm writing seminar paper. Well, I would say that. Please can you mute yourself so that we can hear? Hello, please can you mute yourself for now so that I can answer the question? Yes, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I don't want to give you an idea that maybe five pages or 10 pages, but it should not overwhelm. That's what I noticed. And it's a good question. The last speaker, it's when we are reviewing projects, when we are doing, you see that some students talk more on conceptual review, and the empirical review is scanty. One page. No, ma. Just give us an overview. It's like an overview of your concepts under study. It's an overview, so it should not be when you're not doing PhD, we're not doing, even at masters, there's a limit to which you write. But for your level, at the first level, you killed 5 pages. I think it's okay. 6 pages. Just give an overview of the concept. But don't forget, we have talked about frame or structure where you have to feel it. Have like, when you are reading about the concept, how did they discuss it? So that would serve as a guide for your own structure. For you to put, okay, I want to talk about the history of that particular concept, for instance. Maybe epidemiology, maybe the likely causes, maybe you talked about prostate cancer, all right, good. Epidemiology of prostate cancer, do you get it? You can talk about prostate cancer. You can talk around prostate cancer, the science, the management, even the current management. Prostate cancer has a lot of things around it, but you can summarize them in a box such that you do not talk too much on it. And then you give us maybe complications, prostate cancer, management, and all. You are good to go. I hope I've been able to answer your question. Summer.
Hello, good evening, ma.
Good evening, dear.
Okay, ma. So like you rightly mentioned during the course of your lecture, thank you, ma, for the lecture, by the way. You mentioned something around like other disciplines doing something related to your research topic. Like if you want to research on something related to nurses, such as compassion fatigue among nurses, or like use of learning aids among student nurses, but then most of the literature is related to other professionals, like maybe doctors or dental students. How would you be able to limited in the particular aspects, like relating to nurses, how would you be able to go about it, especially in your empirical review?
Thank you for that question. That's also a beautiful one. You know what I got from there? That shows that it's not common. That's a gap. That shows that it's not common in your field. That means people are not talking about it. Other discipline are talking about are the ones doing research. You can now say this issue, this particular topic has not been discussed, has not been really dwelt on among the nursing client. Do you get it? So that's a beautiful gap for you to fill. Now, in terms of information, you will get information from them. So the information is not the same. Compassion fatigue, the definition of compassion fatigue is the same. But all you need to do is to narrow it down to your own setting or description of your target population, which should be different from theirs. Or rather, it may be different from them, from their own rather. Do you understand? Have I answered your question?
Yes, ma. Thank you, ma.
Do we have other questions? Contributions?
All right. If we don't have other questions, I have a list here that I'm going to be calling out.
Sorry, ma'am. Dr. Olusoju, I think I'm seeing a question, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I have 2 questions in the chat box. Let me quickly respond to them. Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. Please, ma'am, must everything in literature review be cited? Oh, beautiful one. Everything in literature review, if I get the question right, everything in literature review must it be cited? Most. Because they will ask you, are you the author of this information? Most of the things, but not all. But cogent, you can't be talking about inflammatory sentences, inflammatory information. You say, in Akure, sorry, I'm using Akure because 20% of people living with HIV/AIDS are this, and there's no citation. There's no, where did you get it? Are you the one that did it? So, I used to use the word inflammatory statements that are, you don't just use them like that carelessly. Must be cited. If you look at some information, by the time you read them, say, no, this is not you. So it must be cited. So as much as possible, you cite information like that. Thank you. The next one is, under the literature matrix, you use qualitative as examples. Please, can we apply it to quantitative? Of course, yes. It was just because of time. I was even looking for quantitative as example for you because I know at your level, you use more of quantitative study. But it is the same thing. It is the same idea. If it is quantitative, you use questionnaire most of the time. Your objectives are clearly stated. Your findings. Don't forget the findings will not be based on your objective to answer the research questions. Your request question number 1, what did you find out? Or research question number 2, what did you find out? Those are the things that are going to be in your findings. Then your recommendations will come from there. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. It's been an impactful week. And the lecture has been impactful. I'm sure many of us we've learned a lot. And for those of you that attended the catch-up class, you could see that most of the things Dr. Luashe said about literature research, literature search, you could see that some of them, that you don't just start your literature review from anywhere. Even before you pick your topics, that you just have the idea, you need to start doing literature review. And we've actually learned about structures, we've learned about the steps to take, and we've learned a whole different things. So like we said, it's called research. The more you get exposed to it, the better you become.